Hi, welcome to my podcast. I'm Janine Rusan. And my podcast, this edition, I am writing and recording this a week after the November 2024 U.S. elections. We have been through a journey, an intense campaign for truth and the needs of healthcare, education, housing, women's rights, rule of law, civil rights, and just genuine decency. From my perspective, it's not had a happy ending. So I turn to my podcast, Own Your Own Authentic Power. My most significant candidate, the highest level, didn't win. More on that later. What has been the most important takeaway for me is the clarity that this election has given me. I am clear-eyed and resolved because of its results. I am more confident than ever of who I am, what I believe, what I am willing to do. Conversely, what I am no longer willing to do, who I want to associate with, who I don't want to associate with, and who I would give my last nickel for. Maya Angelou told us many, many times, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Well, America's values have been shown, and I believe it. I think it is useless, not productive, and just plain not truthful to keep saying this isn't who we are when you're thinking about racism, sexism, homophobia, and misogyny. It is who this country is. It's what we see every day in America, and they have given it a promotion. It is America. It is more than half of white people. In fact, it's more than half of Latinos who have become citizens of this country. So I turned to Kendrick Lamar, who said, they not like us. Latinos who immigrated to this country and voted for the convicted felon who has utter contempt for them. But they claimed that they were voting for him for his appearance of strength, even though he was putting out lies, all of which were easily disputed if they had cared to really, really listen. As Kendrick Lamar says, once upon a time, all of us was in chains. Homie still doubled down, calling us some slaves. No, you not a colleague. You a colonizer. The family matter and the truth of the matter, it was God's plan to show y'all the liar. Those are the lyrics from his song. So when those who voted for him have their family and friends impacted by the policies to come, will they then still be comfortable with the decisions they made? I've been listening during the campaign to many people talking about issues, and one particularly caught my attention. Paula Ramos. She's a journalist who covers Latino issues for Telemundo and MSNBC. She says that Latinos in America have become Americanized. A large majority of them don't see themselves as immigrants. They've been here long enough that they believe they're in a different category than the Latino immigrants who are now entering the country. And she believes that that's largely the rationale behind them voting for a con man who has promised to not let any more of the people in. Their values have changed to be more like white Americans And in fact, they're resentful that new immigrants are encroaching on what is now their adopted country. I think it would be really good reading to pick up Ms. Ramos' book that's called Defectors: The Rise of the Latino Far Right and What It Means for America. It was published just recently in September 2024. I think it'll be educational. Ms. Ramos also helped to produce an MSNBC story that uncovered that Glenn Beck, yes, the Glenn Beck who used to work for Fox News, and Republican evangelical Christians have been financing major recruitment of American Latinos. So the Republicans used religion to help pull many Latinos to the far right. I think it's a little incredible that they voted for and somehow feel some allegiance to someone whose only religion is to honor himself. Well, the 2024 elections show their work paid off. Even the colonizer showing his true feelings at the Madison Square Garden event wasn't enough to sway them away from him. These Latinos believe that their Americanness, their Americanhood, their American identity has given them a fidelity and an opportunity in America. And they would be better served by shutting the door on any more coming in. That's where we are. So, the title of this podcast episode, Choose Your Avocado Wisely. Now, that might feel like that's just an ethnic connotation, but hear me out. The 2024 elections remind me of that fruit. And yes, avocados are fruits, not vegetables. Maybe we can find a way forward by thinking about choosing avocados wisely. So let me provide some context on this analogy. Avocados are largely grown in Mexico, but they're also grown to a pretty good extent on the South American continent, in Colombia, Peru, and Chile. And maybe to your surprise, China started cultivating avocados back in 2017. Now, coincidence, I don't know, but Republicans have focused very, very strongly on China for politically expedient reasons. And China is a big ally of Russia. So is it a coincidence that most of the immigrants that the Republicans have condemned are from South America and Mexico? Not likely. And it sure fits for the voters who moved to the far right side with the colonizers. Let me talk a little bit about the avocados. Historically, they were considered to impart strength during the Aztec period. They were deemed sacred. In fact, so much so that if you wanted to do a tribute to the Aztec Empire, you would do so in avocados. That's how revered the fruit was. So fast forward a few thousand years, avocados are all over the USA now. Once cut, avocados can go from perfectly green and ripe to a mushy mess that spoils pretty quickly. Their shelf life is short. That sounds like what we might expect from this new collaboration that has brought the country, Project 2025. I wonder how quickly the constituents who elected the Chief Colonizer will see their avocado get brown and mushy. So, the reason the current situation makes me think about choosing avocados wisely is because I think in how we choose our affiliations, we can think about choosing an avocado as an analogy. When you choose an avocado, you need to know that it'll be good if it feels firm or hard and it isn't ripe yet. Sometimes when you choose an avocado, it's best for it not to be overripe. And there was a hardcore message from Republicans. In fact, their message was very, very direct on who they are, what they value, and who they value. It had that hardness to it. American Latinos thought what was being said about immigrants and deportation wasn't actually going to apply to them or their families. It was the other people. Journalists talked to them, and pollsters. And the American Latinos thought that the negative views that were being espoused were directed at someone else, not them personally. The lies and the fears that were peddled by Republicans actually looked overripe, worn out, used before stereotypes. They kind of looked hard. Now, when you're choosing an avocado, also think about the blemishes. Be mindful of those, because bruised spots or places where the avocado is soft will mean that it maybe isn't going to taste good, especially if it's past its prime. The Chief Colonizer that just got elected had multiple bruises and blemishes, felony convictions, bankruptcies, business failures, a long trail of lies, and he constantly spewed hate. And he was most certainly past his prime. And yet, white women, white men, and Americanized Latinos chose him. America, your values were revealed by the 2024 election. And it turns out a little bit similar to choosing an avocado. Time will tell whether or not it's good, but the shelf life won't be for long. Now, I also don't want to lose the obvious fact that a woman, a very qualified woman, was not voted in. Instead, they favored a man. And the clear message from white men, white women, Latino men, and some women, Latino women, was that women shouldn't apply for president. I actually saw people interviewed who said they didn't think a woman could be president. They thought she wouldn't be respected by other world leaders. Words that had come directly out of the Chief Colonizer's mouth. So we found in 2024 that 2016 was not an anomaly. At least we know now it wasn't Hillary's emails. It was that Hillary and Kamala are females. To have elected him, a person extremely flawed, problematic, with a proven track of hurting our country, and a clear vision of what he values, as compared to the other candidate, a woman who had an unblemished record of service, the only candidate in history who had already served in all three branches of government, who thoughtfully proposed plans to lift everyone, to support families, seniors, women's health, housing, education, and the climate, It was basically a repudiation of truth. Instead, lies, fear-mongering, and other concepts. I believe at its core, this was the bromocracy versus democracy. The bros won. The bros won. Professor Eddie Glaude says we are a country of selfishness and white freedom. And this country bought into a con job and smiled all the way to the ballot box. Eddie said there's a sense that whiteness is under threat, and he thinks that the core of the 2024 election was, this is who we are, and we need to face it. People didn't want to say what they believe, but it was clear that whiteness matters. Anyway, where do we go from here? Here's the advice I'm taking. What matters most to me is where I will direct my energy. I matter as a Black woman. My family matters. So I'm taking another look at where I spend my time and who and what I pour myself into. My money and my effort will be spent in a way that reflects my values, what my family needs, and those who have shown they value what I value. This is how I will own my authentic power. Maybe you should consider doing the same. Look at the places where you spend your time and your money, and prioritize based on those places, organizations, and people who show they value you, and those who you are closest to. Get off the autopilot of where you've been going, where you've been shopping, what you are a member of, and check them out before you keep doing what you've been doing. The 2024 election showed me that people and organizations reveal what they value, and they act accordingly. I think we ought to heed the results. Some say it's not polite to ask someone how they voted, that it should be personal. Yet at the same time, people will tell you it's personal, their vote, when they vote for someone who is vastly opposed to your very existence. But however they answer that question, how they voted, it tells their values, their priorities, and their core character. And honestly, I'm at a point now where I no longer wish to tolerate in a friend what I wouldn't vote for in a candidate. Make the effort. Find out and confirm who shares your values. Collaborate with and associate with who shows up for your causes and your people. Be clear on you, who you really are, what your values are, what matters to you. And as situations come up, maybe choose your involvement the way you would choose an avocado. It's best for it to not be rock hard or too overripe. Be wary of the blemishes. And once exposed to the air, just like an avocado, might get mushy. Know who you're actually involved and engaged with. And remember, it has a short shelf life, but the implications, what you've consumed, can live longer. Be sure you've chosen wisely. I am clear-eyed and resolved about my values. I'm not really interested anymore in compromising or just riding along with people, companies, organizations that don't align. For the greater good, for your good, I encourage you to consider doing the same. I want to wrap up this podcast with the lyrics from a song that I love every time it comes on the radio. It's titled Look Up, and it's by the artist Daly. The lyrics: I wish that we could face the things that hold us back before we fade to black. Instead, we choose to chase the things we know won't last. There's so much we lack, but something keeps me hanging on. Those words that we don't say, they make the biggest sounds. They call us out, 'cause there are quiet truths and pains, but still we love somehow. Something keeps me hanging on. Yeah, some feelings just never give up. They never go. So look up. Thank you for listening. Always own your own power, and you will win in all ways.